Hey everybody, I'm Tim, and today's video we're going to talk about these cheap Chinese diesel heaters, the 3 things I did to modify mine, how it's lasted 3 years, how to keep it in the game. We'll talk about a couple other heaters as well. We're also going to go over ways that are efficient to heat water, and we're going to talk about how to keep your lithium batteries from getting too cold to charge, and how to keep the water in your water tanks with water in them from freezing. So let's get started. We're first going to go over the heaters. When I started camping a long time ago, this was really the only option we had out there on the market. It would go over the top of one of these green gas bottles, and we were stuck with that. I never went to bed with one of these on. It would be cold out, I'd jump in the tent, I'd turn this thing on long enough to heat the tent up real good, I'd turn it back off and go to sleep, and in the morning I'd do the same thing before I got dressed. And outside of that, I never was comfortable operating one of these, and I wouldn't suggest that you do that either. So I moved on to what's called the Mr. Buddy heater. Mr. Buddy was pretty cool. It seemed like a little stabler because it wasn't as top heavy. And that's what I had the problem with the other heater. It just seemed real top heavy and it could tip over. At least this wasn't, and this would go at the very front of the tent where the door is, and you were able to generate heat, but it looked like there was a fire going on in here, and I just wasn't comfortable with that. I was afraid it was going to get kicked over or something, so I never would sleep with this heater on or recommend anyone else to. So it became the same thing. You'd heat the tent up, and then you would turn it back off and go to bed. And I did that for a lot of years, and I woke up cold every morning, and that was just how life was forever. And then people started talking about these diesel heaters. And I was like, man, that's just an ingenious idea. It doesn't take a lot of fuel. It'll run for a couple days, overnight and everything. So I was excited. This was going to be my wintertime game changer for camping, because I like to camp all seasons. I like the spring. It's a little bit cool in the mornings and nights sometime then. The fall's the same way. And wintertime definitely gets down pretty chilly. So this diesel heater seemed like a game changer. But there's a couple things I noticed about it that I didn't like. For one, it just had this tube come up that was the exhaust, and mine didn't come with a muffler. It was just a tube, and that was it. So that was how it exhausted the heat away. Well, I've rode Harleys my whole life. I like to ride motorcycles, and something that we do with the Harleys is we use this heat tape. It looks like this, and it basically, we would wrap it around the pipes on our motorcycles to keep us or our passenger from burning their legs, and it worked really well. So I had some laying around the garage, and I decided to go ahead and wrap this exhaust tube with the heat tape, and it worked out great. I have animals, I have friends, I just, anything that gets hot like that, and it seems like closer to the outlet here is the warmest part of it, so I wrapped all that in the heat tape. And then I went out and I bought a small muffler off of Amazon, and it works really great. It quieted everything down. It wasn't extremely noisy to start with, but it made it even less noisier, so I like that. So I put the muffler on there. It worked good. I did the same thing. I didn't have to, of course, heat tape the intake, but I did tie it here to the side to where it would stay in place. So this is one unit I could grab, and it worked well for that. And another upgrade I did was on the cord. These are the pigtails. I come from Kansas, a farming community, and we use these pigtails on everything. We wired lights with them. We wired trailers with them. We wired CB radios with them back in the day. And these pigtails are really a neat thing. So if you want a cool way to be able to mount accessories, it's not going to be plugged in all the time, pigtails are the way to go. And what's neat about it is where it comes from your battery on the positive side, and you want to wire it that way because you can wire it either way, but wiring it from the positive side, you're going to have that shielded with this black part here where the other part plugs in. And the neat thing about that, it's not going to short out on the side of the truck or anything. On my Jeep Gladiator, I have a pigtail on both sides, so I can plug this in on either side of my truck or any of my other accessories that I have wired this way. And it's a game changer as far as that goes. And I suggest these things. They're cheap. I think they're around $5 at your tractor, farm, home supply. So it's a good way to go. And the only thing I didn't upgrade, because when I buy something new, I like to customize it. I like to make it mine. I love building things, designing things. So the only thing I didn't really mess with, and I was going to originally, was this controller. This is the original controller that doesn't have the Bluetooth, so you have to set it and forget it. And something I noticed about these heaters is if you'll find the setting that's pretty comfortable. Once you find that setting, it seems to work well. Now, in my line of work today, after retiring from law enforcement, I've become a bounty hunter, private investigator, and a bail bondsman. So a lot of times we're stealthy, we're out in areas that we don't want to give off any kind of digital footprint. If we're out and one of our Bluetooth devices come up, other people can see that on their phones and stuff, so we stay away from all that type of stuff. And I was thinking about the Bluetooth device here on one of these diesel heaters. This thing's going to be putting out a signal all night while I'm trying to sleep. And if you want to stealth camp, you're not stealth camping if you're transmitting all kinds of signals out there. Not that most of you would ever worry about it or even have to think about it, but it is a thought. Because all the Bluetooth devices I have, I can actually disable, and that's a good option. And you might be able to on the other heaters as well. But I decided that I would just stay away and just leave the original one on here. I would set it at nighttime, and honestly, I never got out of my tent to change it. It stayed consistent. If it got a little bit warm in there, I'd just open up another zipper, a little bit more cold air come in, and it worked out perfect for that. So that was the one thing I didn't upgrade with it, but everything else I did to it has made it last, I feel like. And the difference between me and my buddies with the diesel heater was I noticed whenever they got done and was packing up camp, they just unplugged it and they threw it in the back of their truck. That is the biggest mistake that you can make with a diesel heater. What you have to do is you have to give this that time to run and burn off whatever fuels it still has in there to be able to work properly the next time. Otherwise, it's going to form a lot of carbon. So I've never done that with mine. I've never just turned it off and unplugged it. I'll turn it off and I'll just leave it there for a couple minutes till it's done cycling through, doing the things that it does to shut down. And then I'll come up and I'll unplug it and everything and store it away. So that might be the reason why mine lasted 3 years and some of them only lasted months, or maybe I just really got lucky and got the golden diesel heater that was been doing a good job this long, and I probably jinxed myself because the next camping trip I'll probably freeze to death, but hopefully not. And I think that is a big factor with a lot of people's problems. The next thing we're going to talk about is keeping ourselves warm. And people tell you you don't need anything to overland, and yeah, that's true, you really don't. But I'll tell you something I do like, and something that I personally need is a jet boil. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Traditionally, I've used these type of coffee pots. They have the percolator. I'm a big coffee guy. I like having my coffee in the morning. And it had another purpose too, is it allowed me to warm water up that I could use for tea, hot chocolate, those ready to eat meals that you could just pour the hot water in and stir. So, you know, you can use these type of pots for several different things. But if you're buying your first one, personally, my recommendation is get the percolator with this little glass looking top. This one's actually plastic, but it looks glass. But you want one of these because when the water is at temperature and it's percolating, you can see it moving through this glass here because it forces the water up. So this is something that's a good add-on. And really, these two coffee makers or coffee pots are only about $5-6 a piece between the price difference. This is about $6 more expensive than this one, but it has that in it. So I would recommend spending the extra $6 and getting this style. Now, what I actually recommend, and I personally need, is a jet boil. I don't know how I ever got through without a jet boil. And the cool thing about it is it's small, it packs up. And I like things that I can take backpacking. I'm a big hiker, so I like to be able to break everything down small. And all this comes right inside of here. And I really like it because it has my burner down here at the bottom and it attaches to one of these. Now, that's the only disadvantage, is you have to have these gas canisters. I normally keep a couple spare inside the Jeep. And whenever you connect it up, this just sits on top and it boils water within minutes. The cool thing about it is whenever it's getting to temperature, it's got orange lines here that will draw up. and once it's at the boiling temperature, this is all orange here, so you know that it's hot enough to where you need it. So if you're boiling water to drink, or if you're boiling water for your food, or just to make a pot of coffee, because this also comes with a French press where I can put my grounds in there, and then it has a pass-through lid to where I can push this through there and make coffee. And it has a pour spout, so I don't have to worry about taking it back apart. And it also has a handle to where I can't burn myself. And that's the other thing I didn't mention about this pot that I like. Not only the percolator part of it, but it has a wooden handle on it. So that helps you out whenever this all becomes hot from the fire. Because a lot of times, if I have plenty of time, I'm not in any kind of big hurry, this is actually my go-to water pot, just because I can set it right down on top of the fire. I can let it get hot enough, and it takes longer, but it truly makes better tasting coffee, and I like it that way. So that's the other thing. Even though I have a jet boil, I always have one of these two coffee pots with me, just because if I do run out of gas or something fails on the jet boil, I can still go back to the old-fashioned way of cooking stuff, and I can just put this directly on the fire. So that's very handy. Now let's talk about my water tank. Every year, my water filter in the water tank freezes and breaks. It did this year too. Just one of those things. I should have learned my lesson by now. But whenever I designed my system, I had it, because these water filters that I picked out actually have the same type of connection on them that you would find on your garden hose. And I use like a garden hose from my pump, and I just put this water filter in between the pump and the water sprayer, so I can spray water, have it for dishes, I have it for my dogs, anything that I need water for. But now I just unplugged it from both sides, and I screwed them into each other because they have the male-female connectors, so I can bypass this in the wintertime. I don't use water as much in the wintertime as I do the summer when I'm camping more and the dogs are getting hotter and all, and they need to cool down. So I do that. Now, if you guys watched my water video, you would have found out that I found a 21-gallon water tank that was so small that it sat under the top of my bed of the front of my truck. It only took up less than 2 feet, not even 2 feet, about a foot of room, and it was 21 gallons. It was an amazing find, and I researched it, and it worked fine. So I've been using that now for over a year, and it's been working great. But I had concerns because winter was coming, and they make these little heat blankets that it's a heat tape, like a solar blanket, but it's got the electrodes in here to where you plug it in, it produces heat, and it's actually produced enough heat to keep my water tank from freezing all winter. Now, the only real concern to these is they do draw 40 watts of power, so it depends on how much power that you have to spare. I have two of the lithium batteries. It works fine for me so far. I haven't ran them down to where I was worried about it yet, because I run two of these, and the other one, you can see the size is big enough to set the two batteries on top. And I always buy extras of everything, but I've set both of my batteries on top of this and ran it into my dual battery system itself, and it's kept enough heat to where there's enough heat all the time to where I can turn this on when it's too cold, and it will keep my batteries to where they're at a temperature where they'll still charge. So I don't let these run all the time. I only let them run whenever it's below freezing for the water tank, and really I don't see a need to keep them on the rest of the time. But you know, I was thinking, back when I was on the fire department, as far as water goes, we used to turn our pumps on the old brush trucks and everything, and we would just let the water circulate when it was below freezing and we had a fire run. So as soon as we got the fire call, we flipped the pump on, it was running, circulating that water, and it never froze on us. The only time it froze on us is whenever it went in the air and become molecules, and it would detach our fire hats to our shoulders because it would freeze us, but the water never froze within the tank. So I found this small water filter or water pump after doing some research, and it's a food grade pump designed for food grade products. And the cool thing is it only uses 350 milliamps, which is hardly anything of power. And I also use some food grade tubing. So now what I'm able to do is I'm able to stick this tubing down into the bottom of the tank and then run it out through the other side on a T, and it's constantly circulating the water inside the tank so it doesn't freeze. So I turned off the heating pad with it just to see if it would work by itself, and it did. So as long as the water was circulating, it was just fine. So this is a good investment. It was very cheap. I'll list some links to some of the stuff for you guys as well. So this is all about me for the winter time. Now I got a warm tent. I got a way to keep warm liquids inside and keep my batteries warm, keep my pump with water, because otherwise you're going to have to take your water bottles and stuff up into your tent with you to keep them from freezing. Otherwise you're going to wake up in the morning, all your water is going to be froze up and there won't be any coffee for a while. I hope some of these suggestions helped you. I will be coming out with more. If you would, please like and subscribe my videos. It really helps me out, and we'll see you the next time.